largemouth. Big largemouth. Hell yeah! Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here on behalf of Lucky Tackle Box, and today I'm going to introduce to you guys the Lunkerhunt Froglet, or Froglite. I believe that's French or Spanish or something like that. No, I don't think it is at all. Anyhow guys, what this is a hollow body frog, but it's a completely different design away from the norm. So I'm going to break this bait down, show you what's unique to it, show you how maybe you could go about fishing it, when, where, and how, and the way I like to rig it. So let's get it started. So first off, what makes this bait unique? It's a 1/2 ounce hollow body, and it's long. It's like a topwater walking style bait, and I'll show you how to do that. But if you look, you got these 2 hooks right back here. They're much smaller than your normal frog hooks, which are like 4, 5, and 6/0 hooks. These look like 2/0, and it's a prong, you know, frog hook style. It looks like a 2/0 hook, but it's either 4 or 6x strength, which is a very thick diameter hook, which is not going to bend out, so you could still fish this on a heavier braid. Now, as I squeeze this down, if you'll notice, the hooks are kind of already forked up, and the body sits higher than those hook points. What that's going to give you is increased hookup ratio once they grab it. You look, the hooks are near the back of the bait, so even if the fish grabs this real soft plastic, and it's a cam action, which means bending independently, the eye will bend away from the way the hooks are bending. Even if they grab it right here and you go to drill that hook set, that fish's mouth is going to slide down and they're going to get it. Even if they take a short strike, the way this is balanced, those hooks are right in the back. So I even had fish grabbing this thing where I didn't think I was going to hook them. I set the hook, and sure enough, I had them hooked. I was a little concerned at first with the smaller hooks, but there's really no problem with that thicker diameter. Once these things get some meat, that thicker diameter hook is so thick, even when you pull hard and it gets through a thin spot, it's not going to cut like a knife because it's thicker. It's much harder once a thicker diameter hook sticks into a fish to pull and tear that hook free, versus a thinner diameter kind of cuts through like a knife. So that's very smart thinking on behalf of them there. Along with that, this frog tends to slide up the line, kind of away from the hooks, which is kind of nice, but at the same time, if you have that design, sometimes it'll take on a little bit of water, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It can kind of work to an advantage. I notice every now and then when I'm fishing this, it kind of gets subsurface a little bit as I'm doing the walk the dog. Now, you may want to pull it up and squeeze that water out real quick, but it kind of works like a subsurface walk the dog bait when it does get water in it. So keep that in mind. If a fish comes up to blast it and it's this far below the surface, he's not going to knock it out. What's going to happen is he's going to suck it in. He's not fighting the surface water so much. So you get the option of this as a walking topwater, or kind of like a walking wake bait. So keep that advantage in mind with this style longer bait. So when it comes to rigging the Froglite, now when it comes to my rigging, guys, I like a medium heavy power rod. I'm not going to say medium heavy action. A lot of guys do that. It's a medium heavy power rod with a fast action. Now that means a lot of backbone, stiff backbone, but a nice soft tip up here. You probably can't see that, but that rod's got a soft tip right up there, and it's very stiff throughout. When I hit a fish with a hollow body style, they have thick hooks or big hooks. You want to wrench them out because you're generally fishing near heavy structure and cover. You don't want to give that fish the option to move out and around. And when I'm fishing top water, like with a hollow belly like the Froglet here, I'm using heavy braid. The minimal I throw, if I'm trying to make long cast or if I'm fishing from the bank, I throw 50 pound. Now I know you guys don't have a lot of options or a lot of rods in regards to having a million options that you're going to carry with you bank fishing. So if you're bank fishing, just rig up with 50 pound braid. A lot of the time, if I'm fishing from a boat, I'm casting over the top of boat docks or over the top of ropes, so I tend to use 65. You don't get as long a range cast, but it's much, much tougher. With that, I like to use a fast reel. I'm casting up to the prime stuff, and since this is a walking bait and you're twitching it and it's walking side to side, I like to keep it right near that structure or cover, or if there's a big grass mat, I'm going to walk it across that grass mat, and if I see that I'm already out of there and there's open water in between me and that grass mat or me and that structure and cover, I'm going to reel it up fast and get it out to the next spot. So heavy braid, fast reel, medium heavy power, fast action rod is gonna do the job. All right guys, now when it comes to casting and retrieving the Froglet, I'm gonna show you something here. I'm gonna cast up to a tree, and this is where I like to spend a lot of time in the strike zone, and then I'm gonna cast up to a shade line and show you the difference. So right now, I'm gonna cast up to the tree, and I'm strictly gonna work it in place right next to that tree, allowing, if there's a fish in there, for him to come out. That bait is staying in his strike zone. He's thinking to himself, I don't want to run it down. Well, it's staying right here. Okay, I'll go get it. Instead of like on a bright sunny day where he's in that structure or cover, or she's in that structure and cover, and it goes by fast, they may not want it like that. They may want you to stay right there and hesitate, and they'll come out and get it. Now, on the contrary to that, let's say I'm working a long shade line. What I want to do is I want to make a long cast right parallel with that shade line. That shade line's right here. I want to parallel it. I want to be right on the edge of the shade, and I'm just going to slowly walk the dog and retrieve it all the way back down that shade line, because a bass could be positioned anywhere in a shade line at any time. So you don't want to spend a lot of time. Let's say that shade line's 30, 40 feet long. You want to cast out and you want to cover it. You can't spend a minute in every square foot of that shade line like you would a tree, but that shade line, you need to cover it. A lot of the time those fish are going to be spread out in that shade, so that could be a very good target. And imagine boat docks just like shade lines, rock walls just like shade lines. A lot of the time on those rock walls where there's not shade, there's going to be a bigger rock down there that's going to give them the shade that they'll hide right behind. So if you parallel those rock walls, a lot of the time that fish is in a shade pocket and they will come up and they'll get it. All right guys, now I want to show you the basics of the walk the dog and the basics of the walk in place. So go ahead and watch my frog here. I'm going to pitch it out and watch the frog. You see how it's going back and forth like that, and you can see it's moving forward. That's the basic walk the dog. So go ahead and watch my hands right now. I'm slowly reeling as I'm twitching the rod down. Every time you see my rod tip kind of bounce back, when you see me reel and give it back, what I'm doing is I'm giving that lure slack, allowing it free line to move side to side. Now, I want to show you the walk in place. A walk in place is a tap and give it slack. Tap and give it slack. Tap and give it slack. And you can see that frog was kind of just sitting there in place. Now that's perfect when you're casting right up next to a tree. So what's critical for that walk in place, I want you to watch my rod right here. That walk in place is that my rod tip's almost pointed straight down. I'm twitching and giving slack immediately. Immediate slack. You don't want to twitch and pull to walk in place. You want to twitch and slack as much as you can. No tension in that line. As long as you don't have tension, that frog can even walk 180 degrees back around. So when would I fish a lure like the Froglet? So basic water temperature, once that water temperature is 55 degrees, and I often say start fishing top water baits at 60 degrees, but walking baits tend to draw fish up earlier in the year. So 55 degrees, probably all the way back down to 55 degrees again in the fall. Any time of day in those warmer months, once that water's over 55, any time of day, any time of year. The benefit of this is you can fish this in the heaviest of structure or cover, as it's a weedless presentation. When would I like to fish this over a traditional frog? If I'm covering a lot of grass, if I'm moving down a shoreline, all the grass looks the same, a walking bait's going to tend to outperform a shorter walking bait. A normal frog may walk this tight. This bait here could walk out that far. The farther the bait travels side to side, the more drawing power it has. The cleaner the water, more drawing power a walking bait has. Dirty water, you usually want to make a little bit more commotion, so you may want to twitch this harder and kick off a bigger splash in that dirty water. But a walking bait, real natural presentation like that, this is going to excel in clean water, and it's going to excel when you have a lot of cover that you need to cover that water fast with. I'm Nick the Informative Fisherman, and that's the Lunkerhunt Froglet. If you like this video, guys, make sure to please like it, thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the Lucky Tackle Box YouTube channel. We'll see you next time, and we appreciate you watching.